We have a bonus. Who likes a bonus? Right? So we need to make extra bonus noise for Greg Nicotero and Tam Savini. Thank you so much. Is number one on?
It's on.
Right. There we go.
I would like to thank Greg for inviting me to this panel.
I would like to thank you for joining us. This is such a wonderful surprise.
I'm going to make Tom do all the work, though. Look. Yeah, I'm sitting next to him all day when he does that.
Is that what I've been hearing?
Before we start, though, there's this amazing makeup artist sitting in the audience, and she's right there. And her name is Dakota, and she's 7 years old, and she is the youngest makeup effects artist in the world. You have to stand up.
Dakota! You like to say Dakota?
Now, she's not allowed, she can't talk because she's staying in character, which is very impressive. But I just want everybody to see she did this makeup.
Come in front of us, Dakota.
She did her own makeup. Great job.
Turn around. Yeah.
But I just thought, I met her yesterday and she's super impressive. And look how great she looks.
Yes.
All right, good job.
Thank you, Dakota.
Now go scare somebody.
Yeah.
Go scare somebody.
Go do your job.
And that's what we do.
Oh. Truly, Dakota, that is phenomenal. I can't believe that.
And
Keep
she's
it up.
actually like 6'3", so it's a really unique makeup job.
Great name, too.
Can I get in on that except like in reverse? I want to be 6'3".
Talk to Dakota. So look, thank you everybody for coming. I just like I made Tom come on the stage here, I invited myself to the show because I called Bill and I said, look, man, I'm prepping a show here in Atlanta and I'm going to be in town and I'd love to come. And then when I found out Tom was going to be here, I was more excited and we get to sit next to each other and hang out. But I've been telling everybody this really unique story that happened to me a week ago. My YouTube feed, it's all either guitars and music or horror movies. And I watched something about Dawn of the Dead, and one day this thing pops up, and it was the Dario Argento cut of Dawn of the Dead with a commentary from George and Tom and Chris Romero. And I watched it last Sunday. And it was 2.5 hours, and I couldn't shut it off. And it was the first time since George passed away that I felt like I was listening. When you watch an interview with somebody, you hear very short sound bites in the interview. It's always being directed by a moderator, no offense. But it was the first time that I had heard George and Tom interacting and talking, and it took me back to when I first met them. So I texted Tom, and I'm like, man, my heart is warm and just filled with joy right now because I felt like I was re-experiencing your relationship with George and what made me want to do what I do now. So I would really encourage you guys, if you have time, find a movie that has a really good commentary, and it's got to be people like Tom and George that are super charismatic. Like if you listen to the John Carpenter and Kurt Russell commentary on The Thing, it's kind of the same vibe. So, I'm not a big podcast guy, I'll be honest, because podcasts drive me a little crazy. Because there are people that don't have any right to really talk about stuff. They just decide they want to talk about it. And I guess that's okay, but when I want to hear from the real people that were there. I want to hear from Tom. So anyway, that's my introduction.
Well, the thing about the commentary was the FedEx guy would come and ring the doorbell, the dog was barking, the phone was ringing. It was like you were sitting there with us while we were doing the commentary, and life was going on around us.
Yeah, it was really great, and it was the first time in a long time that I felt really sort of reconnected. So now, of course, and Jaws, the 50th anniversary of Jaws is this summer. and I'm producing a documentary with a guy named Laurent Bouzereau, who produces all Spielberg's documentaries. So I did an interview for it, and now it's like in my YouTube feed, it's Jaws and Dawn of the Dead, like constantly, which is kind of the greatest, you know. So now I love that I can sort of fall back in love with things that inspired me, and that's what I feel like I'm in a really unique moment. So when I was doing this panel, I'm like, Tom, you should come up because I want to hear Tom talk about his career because that's what inspired me and still inspires me. So Tom, I'm going to ask Tom a question. I'm going to ask you a question. What was, in your opinion, the best makeup effect you've ever done? Like, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Doesn't have to be a mainstream movie, but the one that you are most proud of.
Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Because I had never done an animatronic creature before.
Okay. I knew that. Tell me your second favorite. I knew
Second favorite.
Second. See, I'm making you work for this.
Yeah. Let's see. Nate's Corpse is a lot of fun. Lizzie from Tales from the Dark Side. You know, that was another animatronic creature.
So Creepshow for you was really the culmination of everything that you had done in a lot of those movies, because you had an animatronic creature, and you had the full Nate suit, because we hadn't really done a suit before, right?
Yeah, it's Creepshow is 5 movies.
Yeah.
You know, 5 little movies. I consider either that or Day of the Dead my masterpiece. You know, Creepshow.
What were some of the challenges in creating the animatronics Fluffy and Lizzie?
Well, I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, so how did you figure it out, though? Because it came out great.
I called Rob Bottin. Please tell me that you know who Rob Bottin is.
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 hours on the phone, he taught me how to do it.
Really?
Yeah. But then he came to the premiere of Knight Riders in LA and took me to his house. And he tore off all the skins from the howling animatronic heads to show me the mechanisms and how to work it. I was appalled. He said, no, I always tear the skins off. I only keep the mechanisms.
Why? I mean, that's kind of crazy. Why you would tear the skin off of it?
To show me.
But the interesting thing is Tom took pictures of the mechanisms, and he gave me copies. So I have photos of like what the understructure of the Howling transformation heads look like.
The John Carradine head.
Yeah, which are amazing. You know, the thing about Rob, which a lot of people don't realize, is a lot of it is expression and the position of the heads. You know, if you watch Seven, which I just watched Seven the other day, and Rob Bottin did the makeup effects for that. And you realize that a lot of times it's the expression in the fake heads. If you just have a fake head that's got its eyes half open and sort of slack-jawed, it doesn't have so much impact. It's something that's in a Scream or anything. So a lot of that. And then we were shooting a TV show in Long Beach years and years ago called Mantis. It was Sam Raimi produced it. And Henry Alvarez had his shop there. Henry was Rob Bottin's right-hand man. So Henry invited us over to the shop. In the back of his shop, he had all the puppets from The Thing. And they were rotting and falling apart, but it was like all the monsters. And the thing that I found really interesting about it was the Norris monster. You know, when the chest splits open and the creature comes out, that thing looks like 15 feet tall, but it was only like 5 feet tall. And they basically put it on a table and they elevated it so that it was close to the ceiling, and they shot a low angle to make it look bigger. So again, that's one of the, you know, you're always learning, and you know, when you meet people or you see, you know, you scour behind the scenes photos. And what I love about Tom's story is the internet didn't exist. The only way you learned about special effects was from Dick Smith, because Dick was the one person that would share his process and his techniques, or you'd have to call people. You know, I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark like 2 years ago. And I'm good friends with Chris Wallace. And unfortunately, Chris he's lost his hearing, so he can't hear anymore. But I text him a lot. You know, Chris Wallace did Gremlins and The Fly. And The Melting Head came up. And I texted Chris, and I'm like, I'm watching your work on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I just have to say that The Melting Head is one of the greatest effects ever. And he said, yes, Spielberg is quoted as saying it's his favorite shot in the movie. And then after that, he said everybody in Hollywood would call him and say, how did you do the melting head, because now everybody wanted to put a melting head in their movies. So what's unique about what we do is you see something, you're inspired by it. Not only do you want to emulate it by recreating it in your own image, so to speak, or your own voice, but you also get a chance to pick the brains of people who inspire you. So that's what reminded me. You told the Rob Bottin story. I remembered about the Chris Wayne story. And the fact that we didn't have the internet, so you couldn't just type in Indiana Jones melting head and they'd show you how to do it, and there's 10 interviews. You know, you had to scour Famous Monsters magazine or Fangoria and look at the pictures that were on the shelves of what the supplies were. I'm going to let you talk, Sue, I promise.
No one wants to hear me. Go on, continue.
No, but I mean, I think that's what makes our generation of makeup effects people filmmakers as well as effects artists, because you had to work at it, you know, and you have Frank Darabont and Eli Roth and Quentin Tarantino and Damien and a lot of these people who, you know, when you didn't have the internet at your disposal, you had to fight to get the information.
Did you see the fan? Did the fan come up to your table? He had the Dick Smith blood flowing in him?
Yeah, on his t-shirt.
No, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably here, Dax. No, he's not here. We're not going to say anything nice about him.
Is he in here? Is the guy in here with the blood?
No. His name is Dax. But anyway, it was kind
Oh, Dax, young Dax?
Yeah.
Now he's I know what he is this young, but now I
Yeah.
You remember his name?
we all know Dax.
Okay.
He has a long
I
hair
try
now.
to, don't hold me to this, but I try to remember people's names when they come to the table. So.
Well, Dax is very, very active in Atlanta and at this convention scene, and he was interviewing people when he was so young.
He has a little podcast.
Yeah, and now it's a big podcast to match his grown-up body. I was like, when did Dax grow up? When did he get taller than me? You know? Oh my God. Yeah, Dax is great. Okay, so like you asked him, what was your most challenging effect, sir?
I would say the one that I'm most proud of is Mickey Rourke's makeup in Sin City, the Marv makeup, only because we had Frank Miller as part of the creative team. It was Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller. And, you know, I remember one time we did a test makeup at the shop, and Frank came and he said, this is the way I drew Marv. And he did a drawing of Marv's profile. The big forehead, and then the angular nose, and then the big chin. He said, this is signature Marv. And he did the sketch. And I thought, okay, now I have to take the DNA of that sketch and translate it onto Mickey Rourke's face. And Mickey is notorious for not wanting to wear makeup. Like, he destroys makeup trailers. So we did everything we could. We would put pictures of naked people in the mirror to distract him. You know, we hired different makeup people to just come in and like literally tap dance in the room while we were, just so he wouldn't remember that we were putting makeup on him. But you know, Gino Cardinale and I, and a guy named Chris Nelson, we did his makeup, and then we had a double makeup, and you know, it really was a great example of somebody's physicality. You know, it's like Ron Perlman as Hellboy, that he brought the character to life. You know, that it's not just about putting makeup on people, but the character, the actors that wear the makeup have to bring it to life. Otherwise, it's just pieces of rubber glued to their faces. So we were very fortunate that Mickey was very committed. I remember the first time he was in costume. He had the white beater and the black trench coat, and we had the wig and the makeup, and he walked on set, and Frank Miller, probably not even realizing it, slowly backed away from him as he approached. Because in Frank Miller's head, this was this murderous character that he, in his mind, had written and drawn and created. And now the guy's really live, walking towards him. And Frank was kind of like trying to get out of the way.
Didn't you have to do something special? Like, because it was black and white, like the bandages were like different color?
We had, the bandages were orange.
Right.
Yeah, the trick with Sin City was because we were shooting it in black and white. Like all the blood effects, we used milk. Because if you're, let's just say you want to do a head squib and you use fake blood. Fake blood atomizes into little droplets very quickly. So a lot of times when you see squibs in movies, it just disappears. But milk has a different consistency because it's got that ability to like sort of spread out in chunks. So we literally set up a black screen in the parking lot, and we loaded air mortars with milk, and we shot them at different frame rates. And then they took the white milk, and then they added whatever color they wanted to it. So when you watch Sin City, all the head hits and all the blood gags were milk. And then like a week later, boy, did it smell out there because nobody cleaned up the milk that was all over the
Say it
driveway.
must have stunk.
Oh, it was horrible.
Well, in Singing in the Rain, when he's dancing in the rain, there was milk in the water, so you would see the raindrops.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Do we have any audience questions right now? Right there.
I had one every time. Okay. Two-part for you, Tom. Okay. I know you.
What?
I know you started on The Exorcist, right?
On what?
The Exorcist.
Exorcist. No.
No, I didn't do
I
that.
thought you did. I'm
No.
so sorry. But
Ask the question anyway. We might know the answer.
okay. Well, let's dive in. Okay. What do you think about working with Stephen King?
Oh, with Stephen King. No, listen, he is just a big kid that happens to be a genius.
Yeah. And aren't you doing? Didn't you do some of the effects that's on Monkey Shines?
I did all the stuff.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So.
But also Creepshow. He was in.
Yeah, I didn't even Creepshow,
You know.
but.
He was missing one day, and I was on my way to a war surplus store to buy something. And I'm driving there, and here comes Stephen King in the middle of a 6-lane highway, walking on the median strip, drinking a Perrier and reading a book. So I wasn't surprised when I heard he got hit by a van.
Is it true though that I know that he has to sleep with a nightlight on because his mind is so like.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
But
He had Fluffy on his word processor for a long time after Creepshow. I had given him a mask or something.
Wait, so what you're saying is Stephen King is just a big kid?
He's a big kid, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder who else I know on the stage.
And y'all got along great.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just described yourself.
We're all big kids, yeah.
True.
Greg and I are constantly reminding each other that kids do what we do all the time, you know.
Yes.
Somebody had it right there.
Greg,
Hey,
Hey.
I know you.
I've had the
Hi, Mark.
so I've had the pleasure of seeing you direct, which is fun because again, you're a big kid on set. What are you most proud of in all the directing you did on Walking Dead, as far as sequences or whatever? Because you did some pretty huge and amazing stuff on there.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. Thank you. He was our storyboard artist, by the way. Drew all our storyboards. And he would cut together little animatics, so you'd come to the conference room and he'd pop a DVD in, and all the storyboards were put to music and sound effects, and him and his wife or his kids would all do the sound effects. So we're like, oh, everyone's like, what are we shooting? Like, I don't know, it's right there. You know, when we were prepping season 1 of Daryl Dixon, I was in Paris with Norman, and there was a whole new crew, and it was really interesting because now we were taking a show that had been shot in the States, and we were basically teaching an entire new group of people how to do what we did. And so there were a couple of times where I'm like, wow, we want to do Zombies on Fire. I'm like, yeah, we did that already. Oh yeah, we want to do. And there was a couple of times when somebody had referred to a scene and I didn't remember it. And then they would call it up on YouTube, and I'm like, oh wait, I directed that scene. Because there's a lot of stuff. Like,
Well, you directed 40 episodes.
40 episodes. I think one of my favorite episodes is the episode where the zombies invade Alexandria and Carl gets shot and they have to fight all the zombies. So and the funny thing about that episode was originally it took place all during the day. And I went to the line producer and fought. I said, look, this is Night of the Living Dead. This is the zombie siege. The zombies are taking over the town. You can't shoot it in the daytime. We haven't shot a nighttime zombie scene because in the world of The Walking Dead, why would you ever go out at night? It doesn't make any sense because you're more susceptible to get killed. So we fought to make it at night. And, you know, again, being fun and creative. There was the scene where Alex Breckenridge's son gets bit by a zombie. And I'm like, okay, well, we don't have a lot of time. We can't put a bite on him. We can't do, how are we going to fucking do this? So Gino Cornali played the zombie, and we made a pair of dentures with a blood tube in them. and the blood tube ran up his neck and into the dentures. So when he bit on the head, we sprayed blood out of the dentures, and the blood ran down the kid's forehead. Because we didn't have time to put an appliance on him. So we literally were like, okay, well, you need to see blood instantly. That's the thing on Walking Dead, you know. Television schedules, you know, now they can do it digitally, but if you don't see blood within the first 3 seconds, they'll cut out of the effect because you need the blood to make it work. So I'm like, how the fuck are we going to do that? And I'm like, oh, well, why don't we just put a tube in the dentures so the dentures bleed. So the minute that his teeth touch the kid's head, I'm cueing the guy with the blood pump, and you see the kid look up and then blood running down his forehead. So it was, you know, the great thing about Walking Dead was we had 12 seasons to continue to refine what we did. And it's not like a movie where it's like, oh, we got to take 45 minutes and clean up the blood and reset. We had like 10 minutes between takes. So everything that we did had to be, we tested so many zombie bites. I have my computer is filled with different versions of like how to tear flesh off somebody's forearm because we had to
It's a living, you know.
It was fun because we ended up getting to the point where it's like, take a piece of leather, put a zombie bite on it with some Velcro, and then put a blood bag on top of it, and then when the zombie would grab, you'd have the zombie cover the edges of the leather. So the zombie's basically hiding the edges of the appliance and leans in and bites, and as soon as you cut to them pulling back and the blood bag exploding and blood, and then when it takes over, you just unvelcro the piece and keep shooting. So we had to literally redesign how effects could be done so that they could be done quickly and that they were for maximum blood impact.
Well, that reminds me of my favorite thing was you had the actors kneeling in a trough and somebody was smacking them in the back of the head with a baseball bat and cutting their throats. You didn't put appliances on them, you put tubing on them, and the visual effects guys erased the tubing.
Yeah.
So the blood came out without having to put appliances on.
Yeah.
Working quickly.
And we did that because I said, well, you know, we probably need an hour and a half to take the person away and put the slit throat. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, we don't have an hour and a half. But we do have visual effects, and one of the greatest tools that visual effects does in terms of what we do is you use it to augment. So you can erase the tube. So the visual effects guy would erase the tubing. And then what that does is the minute that the blood would go and the blood would start to spray, then it would be almost instantaneous. So the knife would go across and the blood would start pumping and they would just erase the tubing.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff that we do, bless you. Did you sneeze?
No.
Oh. Sorry. I'm hearing you. But nowadays, you know, when you have these great puppets, you can have people standing right next to them puppeteering them. And then you just erase the rod and erase
Well, the bicycle's on me.
Well, she was erased from yeah.
She had green tights on.
Yeah, and originally, so he's talking about the bicycle girl in the first episode. Originally, we were going to dig a hole and just hide her legs. We were just going to hide her legs in the ground. Like, yeah, no problem. And then, you know, we do it the old-fashioned sort of magic trick. You know, it's sleight of hand. That's, you know, look, when Tom was pioneering effects for movies like Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th, it was all old magic tricks. You know, you cut a little piece of the machete away.
Misdirection.
So now,
Mechanical devices.
yeah, now you don't have to do that anymore. Now you can literally just erase it digitally. But we were going to dig a hole, and Melissa was going to put her legs in. We were going to cover them back up and put grass over it. And then somebody said, like 2 days before, oh, well, we're shooting that in a public park. We can't dig a hole to hide the girl's legs. I'm like, oh, shit, well. So we literally made green tights for her, and then I had a sack of intestines. So she crawled across the ground, and then they shot a clean plate, and then I put the intestines on the ground, and I dragged them. And then the VFX guys put all that stuff together. And, you know, look, that had never been done on TV before. Zombies had never been on TV before The Walking Dead. So it was pretty wild that people were like, how did you guys do that? Like, was it a puppet? Was it this? Was it that? How did you do it? And I love that our responsibility is to use every trick in your arsenal.
Any other questions? Yeah, over there, back there. Way back there, yeah. Can't hear you.
Creepshow has been very enjoyable on Shudder. Is there going to be more of Creepshow?
Yeah, we did seasons of Creepshow. We brought 1 million viewers to Shudder, but yeah, thank you. I'm saying that because somebody from ABC should be listening. But the unfortunate thing is, they start slashing production costs, and the last I heard, they wanted to cut the budget in half, move the show to Canada, and not have any SAG or Directors Guild or no unions, nothing. It just needed to be super down and dirty. And I just said, we're going backwards. Why are we going backwards? Season 1 for me I was pretty naive when I went into it, because at that point I'd done 9 seasons or 8 seasons of The Walking Dead, and I'm like, how hard could it be? You have your actors and you have the sets, and you come in every couple days and you prep. But it was a whole different animal. We had 3.5 days to shoot an episode, and then you would have to have a whole new cast, new directors. Tom directed on the show.
You gave me 4 days.
I did give you 4 days. Wow, that was very nice of me. I must have been broken at that point. But it was really hard. And I think by the time season 1 ended, I was just like, what was I thinking? Like, how did we do that? It was just out of sheer force of will. I had a lot of my Walking Dead crew that came over and worked with me. I think my props guys sitting in here, Renee's in here someplace, that worked on the show with me. And then the show was really well received. And I thought, all the actors, Giancarlo Esposito and who else was in it? All the actors in season 1 were like friends, and I would text them and go, hey, do you want to come do this? Who was in, who played Herbert West in Reanimator? Jeffrey Combs. I called Jeffrey Combs. I'm like, hey, you want to come do a cameo? And he came in and he played a Nazi soldier in the werewolf episode. And he said to me, by the way, this isn't a cameo, this is a part. And I'm like, well, you're here, aren't you? Like, what do you want? But, I will tell you that when the show was very well received, and I was really proud of that, really happy about it. But when we got into season 2, I felt a little more comfortable. Like, there wasn't as much pressure on me. Because season 1, I'm like, if I screw this up, I'm literally destroying the memory of George Romero. And I couldn't do that. And I felt really nervous about it. So when we did season 2, I felt a little looser. It was like I had a drink or two, and I was kind of loosened up a little bit. And I had a lot of fun. The stories in season 2 were much more my style. We did Night of the Living Late Show, which was, a tribute to Night of the Living Dead. And then we did Public Television of the Dead, which was the evil, the Sam Raimi Evil Dead version.
Bob Ross goes.
The Bob Ross, yeah. And it's funny, when I got that script, I sent it to the network and I said, I hope you're not giving me any notes because I'm shooting the script as is. And I think they were for some reason, they were a little intimidated when I would say stuff like that, because we're okay. Like, even in season 4, we did George Romero in 3D, which was really a fun episode of like this kid who finds a comic book and George Romero comes out of the comic book because they accidentally bring 3D zombies to life. And I'm like, they were like, we're not really sure we love this script. And I'm like, well, I'm shooting it, too bad. It's going to be on the show because it was, again, a tribute. But I really felt like Creepshow kind of started to morph into more of my character, my personality, and what I wanted from the show. So thank you. That was a good question.
Any other questions? There's a guy in the front row.
Days of the Dead, or Day of the Dead. I've heard Greg.
Days of the Dead is the show we're at right now.
Correct. Day of the Dead. I've heard you say on a podcast recently that this original script for that was much longer than the actual movie wound up being.
It was a telephone book.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if any of that's been used in The Walking Dead or anything else that you've done.
A lot of the Fiddler's Green stuff in Land of the Dead came from some of what George had done. I just reread that script recently, the original script. And it's fascinating because it's a bunch of people and they go to this island and there's this dictator who's, training zombies for an army, and there's a rebellious faction, the original idea was that was an $8 million movie. And
It was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It was Raiders of the Lost Ark with zombies. That was what I think I got. I think I said that once in an interview like 30 years ago, and now everybody uses that. But the thing was, it was an $8 million budget, but the distributor said, well, if we're going to give you that much money, it has to be rated R. It can't be unrated. And George, George was much more of a maverick than a lot of people realize, because if somebody says you can't do it, George would be like, oh, really? Well, fuck you. That's fine. So, and you have to realize that it was his sort of independent spirit, him and Toby Hooper and Sean Cunningham and Wes Craven, that created the genre now that we all love. It was because when people told them you can't do that, they did it anyway. So with Day of the Dead, it was like, well, screw you, I'm going to make the movie I want to make. And they said, well, then we can only give you $3 million.
Only 3?
Yeah. So George had to take the script and cut most of it out, like all the locations and the island, and they had to cut it all out. So Day of the Dead became a much smaller movie than George had initially intended. And interestingly enough, that's his favorite. Like he's still, in interviews, I'm saying this to this day. But, I saw an interview recently where he's like, yeah, that's my favorite of all of them. And I think because it was a fun, we had a great time shooting it, and I think George was very comfortable doing what he did. But that's why it never got made. And I know when we did Land of the Dead, there was a lot of some of the themes that he had wanted, like Dennis Hopper's character and stuff like that, was stuff that he had intended for Day of the Dead, and then we never shot it.
Do we have any questions in this section? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for putting us on the horror map down here in the South.
Oh, you're welcome.
Absolutely appreciate it. I do horror travel. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's one of the biggest characters in a movie is the location. And Western Pennsylvania is a mecca. And I go there every single year without fail. I'm curious, what do you guys, do you have any insight on what's going to happen with Walmart's purchase of the Monroeville Mall?
Nobody knows.
It's incredible.
And I don't care.
No?
No.
Doesn't bother you?
What can we do?
Yeah, well, you're right. I was going to ask if there was anything the regular folks like us could do.
Well, we're kind of worried about George Romero's bust.
Yes.
What's going to happen to that? It might go back to the artist. Christoph Rakis might have to go there, Greg.
And take it, yeah.
And take it, yeah. But he has the mold for it.
Yeah.
So we're kind of worried about that, but who knows? Who knows? It's a historical landmark, I think. They should leave it alone. Behind you, that.
Wait. Let me add to that, because I love doing that too. I think you and I did a convention in D.C. and we went to the steps at the Exorcist house, and and of course it's funny, you're in D.C. and you go like, oh, Logan's Run, there's the. So I love doing that. They're doing an 50th anniversary celebration in Martha's Vineyard in June for Jaws, and they invited me to come. And talk about a place that really hasn't changed. A lot of places they remodel them and they change them and they look different. But that was the cool thing about the malls. The mall never really changed. You could still go in there. If you ever went on the tour of the boiling room, you'd walk in and you'd hear the sound of the boilers, and they never remodeled it. So you felt
except the food court. That's
the food court.
Where the ice skating rink was.
Yeah. So I love doing that. I love going to locations and.
You can do it
you
forever.
kind of stand there, and that's the thing that I love about horror fans is they want to celebrate it by coming to conventions and meeting the people or going to the locations. It's as close that you could be to being there or being in the movie. And one thing that I learned from Tom, one of many things, was when he was starting effects, he always documented everything. He had a VHS camcorder, and you'd plug it into the VCR and you would record. So when we did Day of the Dead, I became the de facto videographer and filmed everything. So all the DVDs, all the stuff you see on all the DVDs from Day of the Dead was footage that I was shooting for Tom and for George. And back then there wasn't NDAs and they weren't worried that you were going to spoil the movie or post it. You just shot it. So we same with Evil Dead 2. We did Evil Dead 2. I was on set every day with my camera and all the special features stuff. And I've had people come to me over and over again, thank God that you documented that, because you saved it for future generations to be able to experience what it would have been like. And that was all because of Tom, because Tom learned it from Dick Smith.
Yeah.
And I don't do it as much anymore. Now, look, now we have phones and you can just pull your phone out and film stuff. My phone. If anybody ever hacked my phone, they're never going to find any nudes. They're never going to find any scandals. But there's a lot of dead bodies, and a lot of zombies, and a lot of severed heads. So that's what they'll probably be like. We're going to blackmail you with all the nudes we found on your phone. I'm like, yeah, sorry, but we're going to call the cops. I'm like, oh shit. How do I prove to everybody that I don't?
Well, you just answered the question for me, because my question is, why do people go to locations and stand there? Hey, this is where they shot. So what? They're not shooting the movie right now where you're standing.
But we've done
But you said the steps.
Yeah.
To me, that's a whole different.
There you go.
I love lying on the ground under the steps. So that's the fascination people have.
It is.
With locations. You know?
Tom and I we were one time, we're at the back lot of Universal Studios, and we're sneaking around. I don't even remember who we were with. And we found the carriage from House of Frankenstein. Dr. Niemann's carriage from House of Frankenstein. And we jumped on it and took pictures on it.
It was just sitting there in a corner with a bunch of other junk. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why you answered your own question.
I answered my own question.
Do you have any other questions that you can answer?
The girl behind her.
Yeah. So after seeing Romero's The Amusement Park, that's a completely different level of scary and fear, because it's the fear of getting old and being in a society that, especially in America, that doesn't take care of the old people. I kind of laid that as the ground for this question. What's your favorite kind of scare or fear? Is it the fear of, like jump scares? A lot of people love jump scares. I personally think...
No, the best scares come from suspense. Anybody can jump up and go boo, and that scare lasts for 2 seconds, maybe. But suspense, I always use this as an example. Here's a room, there's a door here, and there's a door here. Behind this door, show the monster, or the bomb that's going to go off, or the psycho, whatever. Show him there. And then the girl walks in this door. It's a horror movie, so it's usually a girl. As soon as she walks in, the scare has started, because you know what's behind this door. And you can't wait for her to get to that door. So if you're a good director, a smart director, you delay her, the phone rings. The entire time she's on that phone, you're like, get that phone. I want to see what's going to happen at the door. So she hangs up and you're like, oh, great. So she's on her way to the door. Oh, I broke a nail or something to slow her down. Now you're really up in the air. So she goes to the door, she opens it, and there's nothing there. And you go, oh. And then the monster jumps out. The best way to scare somebody is build up the suspense and then deflate them, and then you come from a higher plane of scare. Yeah.
Who's on the phone?
See, that doesn't matter.
No, I know. Oh, wait, but I agree wholeheartedly with Tom. But look, horror goes in cycles. And I have found I get really frustrated because I want a monster to just be a monster. It doesn't, like, Smile 2. My daughter's 19. Dad, Smile 2. So I watched it and I'm like, Smile 2.
Oh, Smile.
And, there's this whole new thing, like, which I call trauma terror, where the characters are only susceptible to horror movies because they've gone through some trauma. Oh, they were a recovering drug addict or somebody died. That's like a new thing in Hollywood in the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, where they can't write a movie without telling you that their lead character has gone through some trauma that makes them susceptible to the horror that's about to happen. Fuck that, who cares? Like in American Wolf in London, it's 2 guys walking across the moors. Oops. In an alien. It's like, they're miners in space and the monster shows up. Do we know anything about Ripley's character or backstory? No, and you don't, in a lot of instances, you don't need to, because you're learning with that person, whatever this trial or tribulation is. So that bothers me. I get really tweaked when, and I think honestly, it's it comes from people who write horror movies that don't understand horror. Because you have a lot of people like, I'm going to write a horror movie, and they write a horror movie, but they've never written a horror movie. And then all of a sudden, look, The First Smile was fine and fun, and it was okay, but then they're like, oh, this is what we have to do. And I met the director, great guy. But, you know, I want to go on a journey I don't want to learn a lesson in a horror movie. Like, I just want to have fun, you know, and the monster let the monster just be the monster without.
But the monsters are getting stupid. Okay? I hate fucking Chucky. He's a dog. Kick him across the room. The only reason he kills anybody is because they're stupid enough to trip and fall in front of him. The monsters are getting stupid.
I never thought about it.
Well, yeah.
Hey, can
Sorry
I
about
ask
that.
you one more thing?
What?
I just thought of it. You did Ray White's mask.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you get a relationship with him, and did it bother you when he passed away? Or
Yeah, he's a pal.
Yeah.
He's a friend. You know, we all took it.
Are you doing for his brother now? Because they
No,
revamped that.
So they are grooming him to sort of, well, not take over. He's going to be a
No,
different-
he's got his own, but they have, you know, they come out with the White Six.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a diehard wrestling fan, and they come out with the White Six. But that theme, I have that mask.
Oh, good.
It was just.
Have you seen the belt?
I have seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to me, that it was like a different thing for you, like a different kind of development.
Yeah.
I thought it was. So, have you done more for more wrestlers or just him?
Yeah, my partner, Jason Baker, does all the masks. Rey Mysterio, yeah, every time there's a mask, he created it. They're my client, but he does all the work.
See, I have the friend that makes Robert Adams. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
He makes their costumes and stuff.
Oh, well,
You want to switch? I'll come sit there and work.
We have time for one more, so pick good, Tom.
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I got two. I got one for
Scream it
Tom,
out,
one
okay?
for Greg. I
Because
got
I don't
two.
hear very well.
I got one for you, and I got one for Greg.
Well, do Greg.
Greg,
Yeah.
what do you feel like was your most gut-wrenching death in The Walking Dead? Personally, a character,
there's so
actual
many.
actor or
Yeah.
actress, and in the show.
Well, you know, there's more than one. I mean, you know, Glenn's death was gut-wrenching because for a million reasons. First and foremost, because I was at Comic-Con sitting next to Steven when that issue came out, and we opened the page and saw his eyeballs sticking out, and I remember looking at Robert Kirkman and going, "What? You're killing Glenn like that?" And then, of course, 3 years later, I ended up directing that episode. And, you know, Frank Darabont said to me, who created The Walking Dead, he said, I would have never done that. Which I agree with. I would have never killed Glenn. It just, the show, it just was too mean-spirited, and we probably could have benefited from veering from the source material a little bit there. Because I think it changed the show, not in a good way. And it was hard to do because we knew it was coming for like 6 months. You know, we're like, oh, this happened in issue 89. It happened in issue 92, and Steven would come up to me like, it's coming. You know it's coming, right? I'm like, yeah, dude, we all know it's coming. So that was really hard. The irony of that day was Michael Cudlitz came one day and he sat in my office. He said, man, this is the best job I've ever had. I love this job so much. And I'm like, dude, you're not going anywhere. Are you kidding? We love you. 1 in the afternoon, at 4 o'clock, production meeting. Hey, sir, we're going to kill Abraham. And I went, wait, I just told him he can't go anywhere. What are you talking about? And that, you know, and even like, I think the other one for me would have been Scott Wilson. Because he saw it coming too. You know, the actors are, they're like, I'm getting a lot of really good material this season. That's how I'm going to die. So he and I would watch football together on Sundays, and he's like, I'm going, aren't I? I said, dude, I don't know, man. I haven't heard anything. And then like the next day, so a lot of times the actors, as soon as they would start to catch wind of it, they would get upset about it. But look, the irony is, they all went on to amazing things. John Bernthal, Sonequa Martin Green, they all went on to Stephen Young got fucking Academy Award nominations and Beef and so they did okay. So then you kind of don't feel bad. I'm like, yeah, I bashed your head in. I still have his prosthetic in my office, the eyeball hanging out. So when I look at it, I'm like, oh, you're fine. You're all right.
Is it true that you have Mark Wahlberg's dick in the
It was under my seat for 3 years. Yeah.
From Boogie Nights, yeah.
No, because Andy and Norman one day came to me on set and you did Boogie Nights, didn't you? I said, yeah. And they said, did you make the? And I went, yeah. Really? I said, yeah. So I called the shop and I said, guys, pull the mold out, make one. Because the guys want one. I was gonna. So they made it and they shipped it to me and the box came and I took it out of the box. Oh yeah, here it is. I put it in the car. And then I forgot about it. And we're in Georgia. When you get pulled over, they search your car. And I'm thinking, well, there's no gun, so I'm fine. 3 years later, I'm what's this?
Oh,
shit. And it's literally under the seat. And then I called Andy and I'm like, hey, do you still want that? And he's like, that was 3 years ago. I forgot about that. So yeah, it's still
What's my question?
Yes. 4 minutes.
So let me answer?
Yeah, go.
And From Dusk Till Dawn, you play Sex Machine. How did you feel about the pee-pee pistol? How did
I feel about what?
How did you feel about your
The pee-pee whistle?
pistol? Your gun.
We called it the crotch rocket.
I think I like this better.
People come to my table, hey, where's that little gun? It wasn't little.
You sound very defensive about that.
But it wasn't in the script. I didn't know I was going to wear that until they dragged it out and put it on. It's in Desperado. Salma Hayek pulls it out of the guitar case. She said, I don't even want to know what this is. Okay? So I was lucky, and it didn't work in Desperado. I was lucky they got it to work and I got to wear it, So yeah, that's my claim to fame. The crotch rock.
And I was the person who threatened to shoot with it, by the way.
You were the person what?
I was the person you almost shot.
Oh, that's right.
Because I sat down, because Robert Rodriguez was like, I need a scene with the two masters of special effects together. So I walk up and I sit down, and then Tom with his bullwhip takes my beer, whoosh, and then I pull a knife, and then whoosh, the gun comes up, and then I run away.
Right.
So that was Robert was like, I gotta have you guys in the scene together. And that was what we did.
All right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Everyone give it up.